Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight, we return once again to Ichor Falls for Rasulka. So, this one is another submitted story for Ichor Falls. As far as I know, again, as with the submitted stories, authorship is a little hard to pin down because, again, it was posted by admin and there was no real credit given to a specific person. So, if there's somebody out there who did Rasulka and is listening to this, please let us know. And don't lie.
That's important.
I mean, it's the internet, and I'm going to do the honor system when I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go into the rundown for Rasulka, or at least my attempt at a rundown. So,
Do none of the stories on Ichor Falls, none of them have credit at all?
I have had a couple, only because some of them have ended up gotten posted at Creepypasta.wiki, and they will credit, they've gotten the proper credit to the person. So, but yeah, for some reason, unfortunately, unless it's posted specifically by a person on the submitted site, it's usually posted by the admin, and I'm not sure if that's the original person that's been submitting it. Maybe admin, I think one of the admins was Tim or Tom or something like that for one of the previous stories. So, maybe that's just who's been posting it, but, again, there's no actual name, so...
Fair enough.
Yeah. But, back to the rundown. So, Victor, a man recently having troubles in his relationship with his girlfriend Mary, or his wife Mary, based on the absence of a ring on his finger, is working out in Ichor Falls as IT services, for this New Elysium group, and also the Sweetbrook Hospital. He's staring into the mists, seeing the lights of Sweetbrook Hospital across the way from his offices. Mary works there at the hospital, and so he's not having a really good day. He decides to take his mind off things by doing some survey work with the help of his fellow employee Ramir. They need to survey the grounds of a local abandoned asylum with a shady history, Amaranth Mental Hospital. The company they work for, like I said, the New Elysium Group, wants to renovate the building. When Ramir and Victor venture into the structure, which is horribly derelict and graffiti-ridden, and very little signal, like Wi-Fi signal and such. They come upon racist meth head vagrants. Ramir is killed in the confrontation, and Victor flees into the foggy forests of the Stillwood that surround the site, the meth heads in pursuit. He finds an old munitions hut and hides inside of it, waiting out the pursuers. When he thinks the coast is clear, he decides to head out. However, when he goes to leave, he trips on some chains and hits the ground and blacks out. It's then that he has a dream where he is a lumberjack on the Ohio River, floating timber to a mill. Slipping into the cold, dark water, he sinks and finds many bodies listing at the bottom of the river, including Ramir. Mary is also there, but she appears vibrant, alive, and naked. She goes to him and embraces him, and that's when he wakes up from the dream and finds the chains and untangles them from his foot and continues his escape. As he continues to flee, the druggies now are on ATVs and they're wielding guns, and they catch up to him as he runs toward the creeks in the woods. He is shot and falls into the water. The druggies dismounting their vehicles are laughing at him. However, Victor begins getting up and laughing too, dabbing his wound, and oddly saying that they missed. He is shot squarely in the chest again, and gets blown back, but is still laughing. As the druggies near him, converging on him, a large black bubble froths out of the water near the group and pops, revealing Mary. It's then revealed that this area is Mary's domain, as she appears to be a supernatural creature, and Victor knew about it. The story ends with a metaphor about there always being a bigger fish in the pond. And that's the story. So I think I covered most of it. Cool.
Yep.
What was that noise you just made there, Mikey? It sounded like you were just like you're sleeping and you just made a random note like. Meh.
Yeah, he was like it's that nose bubble popped. It's like
Yeah, but no, you hit all the beats.
Okay, cool. So with that then, we shall move on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. And I've got
extra oomph in that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got a fair amount, and some of them are a little gray area, but like I'm going to include them anyway. So just bear with me on the Grammar Inquisition here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start with this one here. Some nurse left a senator's STD screen out in the break room one too many times. So screen had like 3 E's in it in that sentence. So
Yes.
Just a simple typo, just needs 2 E's, not 3. And screen is good. It passes the screening test. But I'll move on.
On to Mikey.
Damn it. Yeah, no. For a moment, the screen illuminated Jenny stilled my wood in Stillwood in blue. So I like the description that we're getting of graffiti. Like I like that we're actually getting like the transcription of what the graffiti is saying on the walls. It kind of gives this place a sense of character, and honestly, I can visualize this kind of urban decay and graffiti like ridden like ruin. I just wish the story would use quote marks on these little bits of like transcript of what the graffiti is saying, because for a moment the screen illuminated and then quote mark Jenny stilled my wood in the Stillwood. And then end quote mark in blue would be so much more helpful.
It uses italicized.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Does it?
Yeah, I will say
it does not. Oh my god, it does.
See, the thing is, like, I have an excuse, kind of, because I pulled this onto a Google Doc, and it doesn't save the formatting all the time.
Fuck, I hate italics.
Italics are they are pretty much the worst. Like I'm really sorry. Like I'm beginning to move to your side there, gamer.
Yeah.
Italics are the worst. It's the worst type of like font formatting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they do actually. So in the actual story, like as it is on the in the actual document, it like on the website, it does have italics there. Okay, that.
Yes, the letters have a 3% angle to the right. Yeah. So if you
Or,
catch
like,
that, good.
Yeah, or like even if they were bolded, it would be better, because bolding like actually like makes it look more like it's some kind of graffiti piece or like a signage.
Yeah, literally every other thing you could do with the letters is better. Bolding, all caps, underline, all that shit is better than italics.
I now know what we need to have as a new T-shirt for Redbubble. It's like I fucking hate italics, and then just have italics. And it's like,
it has to be said in italics as well.
Yeah, and then the gamer in yellow, like little like thing at the bottom. It's like, and then that's just bolded.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Well, speaking of the English language is terrible. Here's another one. They turned into. Sorry, hang on.
Okay.
They turned into a stairwell following the yellow spotlights.
I'm sorry?
I fucking hate the English language. They turned into a stairwell following the yellow spotlight. Guys, we have where stairs.
Oh, hot damn.
Okay, so seriously though, like, I was gonna fix this
That's why
sentence.
there's random stairwells out in the forest. It's people
Yes!
trying to blend in.
They're secretly wear stairs. That's why you don't climb up them. They eat you.
Yeah.
My
Wow.
God, we've solved it.
Finally.
I'm literally writing down some notes for a horror game set in the woods. I mean, it's no worse than Twisted, the novel about where roller coasters.
Okay. It's a little worse than that, honestly.
A little bit, yeah. It's no weirder.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. Yeah, I think if I was to fix the sentence, it would be like they turn towards the stairwell.
Also, stairwell is one word.
Yeah, that's also weird. Yeah, it's stairwell. So it's a well of stairs. They turn toward the well of stairs.
They turned into a stair, comma, well following the yellow spotlights.
Yeah.
Well is misspelled. It's supposed to be while.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this just to prove that like English is hard and multi-versatile, unfortunately.
Yep.
But I'll move on to the next one, which is a paragraph. One eye following the light, the other on their instruments. MacGyver in green. Seriously? Spelled in wrong to boot. Victor's stomach collapsed. He wanted to turn and run, just to flee this building that blossomed after an awkward puberty into the Amaranth Sanitarium in 1927. Closed in 51, they say the doctor lobotomized the lot of them for the hell of it and chucked their bodies out the back. Not all of them from the hospital days, of course. They say that about any old asylum. Okay, so first off, I've got some things to address. Oh no, he's got a black hole in his guts. He's imploding. Because of Victor's stomach collapsed. It just crumples in on itself. Sorry,
Yeah,
that's just the imagery that was invoked from that, to be critically silly.
Mm-hmm.
But for real, I think there needs to be some more clarifying like word here added or something. Like just even like a single word to kind of fix part of this. That like I was getting like he's nervous suddenly, but it doesn't strictly say why, and even counters it with the end, like with a rationale. Like, I think it for some reason it was bugging me, like how like he suddenly was like nervous, he wanted to run from this place, and then it just started going into exposition, and then
which explains why he's nervous.
I know, this might just be a nitpick for me, but I feel like it should have had like just flee this wretched building that blossomed after an awkward puberty into the Amaranth Sanitarium. Like for some reason, I just like it sort of bugged me that this like just the way the story was like just the way it progressed. I don't know.
My question is, why did you bring up like one eye following the light, the other on the instruments, MacGyver in green? Seriously, you spelt it wrong. Why'd you bother reading that?
I don't
That has nothing
know.
to do
Why
with what
why
you're
did
questioning.
I add that? Why did I add that? Oh no, because like he was because that like they were going into the building, and then he starts like getting like nervous and fearful, and then we get exposition about the place, and then he rationalizes that he shouldn't be nervous. So it just feels like there should have been a little bit more or emphasis, I think, on why he was nervous, or like, and he does technically say it. But I don't know. When I was reading it, I was like just thinking to myself, it's like, why is he suddenly nervous? Like this suddenly just came upon. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of bugging me.
I don't know. Just like the deeper he got into it, the more he's remembering all the weird shit that's there. And
Yeah,
there's no
like,
rationalization about like, oh no, it's fine. Like it's it's
No,
rationalization about his fear.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's rationalizing about his fear. Like, of course, they say that about any old asylum, like that has like a dark history and stuff like that. And maybe it is fine. I'm just like, for some reason when I read it, it rubbed me the wrong way, and like I just feel like it. I don't know. There's something off about it, or the way it was like presenting the facts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just move on. It was just maybe just me.
So from the sounds of it, you just wish that there was something. You know
little
when
bit
this
more-
would have been a better time for his stomach to collapse when he tripped on the grave outside, because that would have triggered the memories of right, a whole bunch of people died here.
Yeah,
Instead of
exactly.
just
that.
randomly
Yeah.
reading MacGyver, it's like, oh god, MacGyver.
Oh god, yeah, exactly. That's exactly like he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's commenting, he's like, MacGyver. It's even spelled wrong. Seriously, like, why is this here?
Then all of a sudden he's like, ugh.
Oh god, all this history is suddenly just weighing down on me. And like that's the reason. Like why is he suddenly just like recalling this place's history, like from MacGyver in green?
Yeah, okay.
Like
I
maybe
get
that,
what you
I
mean.
think that no. Well, I didn't really know why it was rubbing me. Like that's why I wanted this conversation. It was like,
Yeah.
so okay, yeah, that's that. It just I think that's the and there's something about this story that I've noticed is that it sort of just goes from scene to scene, sometimes without a proper segue.
Yep.
Or like without a proper transition, or like a proper like connection between things. Like it doesn't happen all the time, and it's a small thing, but it just kind of bugged me a couple of times in the story. But I will continue on. And this is also going to be another nitpicky thing, apparently, because I literally have it in my notes. A bit nitpicky, but so anyway, an age-beaten hand scratched a stubbly face. In this light, the man's rotten teeth looked like they were filed to points. Please, 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 just be a trick of the light. So my nitpick here is I honestly just felt like it should have been please, 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 just be a trick of the light, comma, Victor thought. Like I just need that last bit, like Victor thought, because he does this a couple of times where he's like thinking in the story, and it's just left into the sentence without any kind of without that mention. And like I'm surprised I'm the one saying this, because usually I would be the defender of like read between the lines, but I
More
still
italicized stuff.
is it?
Yeah, it's-
God damn it!
Italicized.
God damn it! Okay, well
I didn't notice it was italicized until you're bringing it up,
yeah,
like making me reread this sentence. But yeah, it's
see,
italicized.
so like okay, we're on anti-italicized, like
Yeah, it's the
screw the
worst.
italicized. I almost said screw the Italians.
The italics would only work if they're also used in conjunction with something that actually pops.
Yes, exactly. Like, god damn it, italics. Why do you suck so much? Okay, yeah. So, and this is also like showing me for not reading the story like directly from the website.
Yeah, this has been like probably the like umpteenth millionth time this has happened, where you copy it over and you miss details because they're on the website and not on your copy.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's so much easier when I can just post it on my Google Doc and then like pull notes from it and stuff. So. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change my formatting.
That's fine.
And also, again, it just points out that italics suck, because you
do.
didn't notice it when you read it.
Nope.
All right. Anyway, moving on. I stand by my comment. There should be a Victor thought like notation there, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But
I guess, but like all of the stuff that isn't in quotes is like thoughts and descriptions of what's going on.
Okay, there's observations, and then there's personal thoughts that are also mingling in. And again, in the story, it's italicized, but fuck italics.
Yeah, they're the worst.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
The meth skeleton shook his head. He made the motion of flicking a tear from his yellow eye. Ain't it just a fucking crying shame? What has the world come to? Our boys go off to die, but we still got the enemy right here in the falls. I suppose the retired Navy plates on my truck don't mean a goddamn thing to you, Victor said. And I'm actually going to keep my mistake where like my cadence changed at the beginning there, because first off, okay, first thing before we go on, meth skeleton is a great, if morbid, descriptor of a meth addict.
It is fantastic.
It shows because exactly like what happens to their body when they've had meth too much is that like they start like basically becoming skin and bones, and like sunken in and such like that. Secondly, though, like my big thing here is that I actually really think there should be like that part at the end there, like Victor said, should be at the beginning and maybe even a little bit like more flourished. Like Victor piped in defiantly, "I suppose the retired Navy plates on my truck don't mean a goddamn thing." Like just to kind of prove, like just kind of like, because when I read this first time when I read this, I read the first quote and then I thought it was the other meth head talking, and then I realized it was Victor talking at the very end. I was like, "Oh, that's Victor saying that." Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, good. I was like, "Are you guys like just being silent?" I was like, "Wait, what is he talking about?" Or
But it does this all the time.
that's my problem. Is that it or do you mean in other stories?
I mean, like, well, in this story specifically,
Yeah.
It never leads with who's talking.
And I think especially like, and it wouldn't have a problem with it if we didn't, like, for some reason this one caught me specifically because it was like I started like talking, I started reading it as if it was one of the meth heads talking in the second dialogue, and then realized it was Victor. And so I just feel like that Victor said should be at the beginning of the sentence or the beginning of the dialogue, just to kind of break up the two dialogues.
Yeah, like I did get lost a little bit because, like, for example, a little bit before it says Ramir's like, "Look, my family's from India. I was born in America." Blah 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 blah. Then right after that, it jumps down and says, "Then my baby mama lost her phone job," which I'm assuming is the guy continuing what he was saying before in regards to. I bet you don't even have a green card. Like this is. But that's what the other vagrant said. And then this one is one of them, either the meth skeleton or the vagrant. And then it goes down again to a mini paragraph of someone saying it. But is it the same person that said the previous one? Because there's no name on it, you know?
Yeah.
There's
Like,
4 people talking.
Yeah.
Like when it's just back and forth, you can kind of get away with it without putting names in. But when there's 4 people, you can get lost.
Yeah, with 2 people it's fine, but with like multiple people it sort of starts getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
So, long story short, I agree with you.
Okay.
It should lead with the names and be a little bit more flowery with stuff instead of just Victor said. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it seems like Victor is like defending his friend there too. So like, yeah. But I'll move on. He swaggered towards Ramir, the light flashed silver on he cleaver he clutched. Okay, I fixed the sentence so that it reads better. He swaggered towards Ramir, comma, the light flashed silver off the cleaver he clutched. And I guess even a little bit more clarification, since since it's not Ramir holding the cleaver, maybe have like the like he swaggered towards Ramir, comma, the light flash silver off the cleaver the vagrant or the meth head clutched.
I'm pretty sure before that it already said he was holding that though.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool.
So I don't know if that's necessary.
All right, fair enough. The next one here I have Victor allowed himself to breath again.
Well, that's good.
It's just it means it just needs an E, so it says Victor allowed himself to breathe again.
Yeah, I stumbled over that, but for some reason I'm like, that's right. I'll just move on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and that's actually the end of my grammar requisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. Let's see here. My grammar issue is with acronyms.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Okay, I know which one. I think I know what you're referencing. Okay.
yeah, there's one that I have no idea what it stands for, and it's MIS.
Yeah. I didn't know what that was. It was like the.
And the quote is, "He'd stay over here in MIS." And so MIS is a place? Like, what?
Yeah, I was thinking, like, is it like MIT? Like no, that's not. It can't be it. Like,
It's well, when that first came up, I was also confused, so I googled it, and it's management information like standards or system or something like that. It's basically he's working in a building that deals with the like I don't know, like management and shit for the hospital, I believe.
Yeah.
But then later on, it said it called it something else.
Yeah. They hang on. Where the hell is it in this? I now pulled up the story itself. IT industry.
Memorial Information Services.
Memorial Information Services. That's MIS.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it really should have said that first, like given us the name, like what the acronym was first, before showing it earlier, or like showing it after the fact.
Yes.
Because I was definitely left like wondering that for like until I just ignored it afterward. I was like, all right, I'm sure. Make a note. Maybe ask Mikey during the recording, like if he gets this.
Yeah, it straight up says, like, when referring to what they're wearing, it says their badges may have read Sweetbrook Memorial Information Services, but their paychecks read New Asylum
Elysium
Technology.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next acronym, NEETS, NETS.
Which is New Asylum Technology Solutions.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they only use the acronym once.
Yeah.
So why not just spell it out again?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're going to say it repeatedly, then yeah. You would go New Elysium Technologies Solutions, then in brackets put NETS, signifying you're going to be saying this a lot.
I was the dumb one today, and I was like, I didn't even like. I was like, where the fuck are all these acronyms come from? I don't know what what is what NETS.
I thought you were like, where the hell did they get all these nets? Are they going fishing?
Honestly, I was like, I figured like nets is like, all right, that's got to be some kind of like IT term that I'm sure Mikey will get. I'll ask him later. And now that you guys are pointing, I'm actually kind of like disappointed in myself that you guys are pointing out. It's like, oh yeah, reference like memorial, like memorial, whatever information services, and like Nets is New Elysium Technology Services. Like, god damn it.
It's fine. I have derped on many occasions. You're allowed to derp.
Also, now that I'm looking at the pages and seeing like where the seeing the spots where like they're thinking and stuff like that, like Mary would be getting off of work right now. And if she's pulled a night shift, and yeah, I would not like. I'm just now realizing they're italics because they kind of like the italics on this page kind of blend in.
They're the worst.
Yeah,
like so bad.
Like, I'll grant it because I copied the story over to a Google Doc to read and take notes. That part of it is on me. But reading the story now, skimming through the story now and looking on the Ichor Falls website, those italics are still shitty. So,
and it's not. I'm not even going to blame the font that they chose because 99% of the fonts out there have shitty italics because they barely skew it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Long story short, people stop writing stories with italics in them.
Yeah, find other ways of quotations and quoting things.
Brackets or bold or
quote marks, like not the single quote notation, not the double quotations. Yeah,
I don't think that's like grammatically correct to do that, but I personally love the idea of going single quotes for thoughts and double quotes for you actually saying it.
But Mikey, you can continue.
No, we're gonna talk for another 10 minutes on this.
All right, or let me get the soapbox out. Just got dust it off right now.
No, it's fine.
Property of Dr. Leviathan. We still have his.
Apparently.
But yeah.
Next thing here is a conjunction junction.
All right, and next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
But there was really no one else. It was illuminated by Mary's photo. It was the first photo he snapped on the phone. She had just woken up from a nap. It was damp with cool condensation from the mist hanging in the air. It always amazed Victor. The only place he'd ever actually seen the cliché Indian systems admin was here in the Falls, of all places. It always surprised people to find out that there even was an IT industry in Ichor Falls. Or rather, the hole in the wall. It was...
I'm sorry. That the way you how fast you did those two sentences really kind of made it all one sentence. So
it's like the nickname for Ichor Falls is the
hole in the wall. Yeah.
It was burdened by an array of brown bottles ranging in all sizes. It was black and damp inside. It felt like hours before he heard the footsteps catch up. It's been a long time since basic training. It chirped again, and the screen went black. It's just the way of the world. Finn.
Wow. I don't half the story was just removed from that from that version.
The first 10 lines of what you said were all sounding like they were descriptors for the photo that was on the phone. And then when you referred to Ichor Falls as the hole in the wall, and then it's strewn about with bottles everywhere. It's like the whole place, the whole town.
I mean, yeah.
It's the bottle city. It's the bottle city of the U.S.
There's just a lot of bottling factories in Ichor Falls.
Seems like it. For those unaware, Mikey does these things to highlight all the sentences that start with words they shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts.
Indeed.
It strings them together into a story for occasionally hilarious results.
Like, it came at them at full force.
When referring to a squirrel.
Yeah. Or Ichor Falls, otherwise known as a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it is kind of a hole in the wall town.
A little bit.
Alright, and that's the end of my grammar acquisition.
All right. On to Gamer.
Okay, my go. So, this first one is just kind of like a blanket statement to Ichor Falls in general, the website, I guess. For some reason, this is the first time I've noticed that the titles on Ichor Falls stories aren't capitalized. Ever.
Holy shit, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why. I think it might be because...
Hang on, because Victoria is. And the song... Wait, hang on.
No, it's not. Click on it.
Interesting. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So yeah, on the actual submitted website, you're right. Every time, every article, it's the Cedar Cove experiment, Victoria and stuff like that. However, in recent posts, on the sidebar, everything's italicized, including Victoria.
No, they're capitalized, not italics.
Sorry, that's
Stop
what I
saying
meant.
italics, they're evil.
Yeah, sorry, I meant capitalized. Yeah, the Cedar Cove.
They're capitalized there,
Victoria.
but when you click on them, the story the title at the top of the page is never you got me saying almost, is never capitalized. And it's also a hyperlink green, so it pops.
Agreed.
And I'm fine with that. I don't know why. And I think the reason that I'm just noticing this now is because a capital
also,
V.
Oh,
yeah. What if it's there's just the way that the website's set up, it can't do caps in anything that's a link?
Maybe.
But then again, the recent posts, those are all links.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So your theory is null and void.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just an aesthetic thing. I don't know. It seems weird though.
Indeed.
But
so
yeah.
I will digress.
Okay.
I can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
He really hated to be the one to do this, period. But there was really no one else, period. So very simple. Swap that period to a comma.
Yep.
And you're done. The first period, rather.
Mm-hmm. No, both of them. Fuck it.
Yeah,
Make it all one long sentence.
Do it. Okay, this next one, this is still pretty early on. Early on as in literally the next line from the start of the sentence, or the start of the story. It's a new paragraph, and it says, those servers needed rebooting, comma, and that's all there was to it, period. End of paragraph, going down to the next paragraph. I don't see why this had to be tabbed out on its own Like maybe it has some huge significance later on. Spoilers, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Also, like servers is capitalized there for some reason.
I can see like they sometimes capitalize that because it's a location specifically. Also,
Maybe
if this kind of reads like a thought that Victor is having, so should it not be italicized so that it's like
that's another awesome way to do this. If they had all the thoughts tabbed out on their own line and italicized, then you might catch them. But when
exactly.
It's blended in with the rest of the paragraph. Okay, I'm not going to talk about italics anymore, unless I have notes about italics, which I don't think I do.
Okay. Next comment, italicized. Damn it.
Yeah. But yeah, that just kind of like a lot of these paragraphs, they're tabbed out weirdly like that. Like there's a sentence that's pulled out for no real apparent reason that I can see.
Yeah.
And I was very confused by that. Next one. Soon the servers would drone into the back just as white noise, period. Now the tune of John Denver's Country Roads, that was a sound he could never ignore. Random. True, but random. However, like the next sentence, which is the next paragraph, because it tabs down, because why would it be connected to this, is basically saying that his ringtone was that song.
Yeah.
What Mary was calling him. But because the paragraph ended, I thought this thought ended. And everything to do with this thought ended. It was going to go on to something else, but no.
Yeah, those definitely should be those two paragraphs should be one.
Yeah. Like, now the tune of John Denver's Country Roads, that was a sound he could never ignore. Because it was ringing on his phone right now.
Yeah. And then it's like...
As a call came in from Mary, yeah.
Yeah, like that makes sense that would be the same paragraph, but for some reason they've separated it.
Mm-hmm. Because, I just read it as a random fact instead of actual world building.
Like, there is actually, like, I'm reading, like, that farther down, and there is actually one where that's, like, there is actually just a random fact. It's like, the real issue here is that prior to 1998, Sweetbrook had no record.
Yes.
Like, that actually, I think, fits as, like, a relevant but random information between paragraphs.
It's still a relevant factoid instead of just... This song I can never ignore. Anyways.
Yeah.
It's not being played or nothing. By the way, I like that. Yeah. So this next one, there's been multiple cases of this happening so far, but this one really tripped me up the most, so I wanted to point it out. I think I may have dipped into this accidentally in my previous note, but whatever. I'm reading it anyways. But they didn't have to look very hard to find Victor, period. He'd always been there, period, with one big exception, period. End of paragraph, starting new paragraph. Nets contracted full-time to Sweetbrook and the mines, period. They always caught people by surprise. Victor guessed that when people pictured coal miners, they still pictured burly men with pickaxes attacking a seam. Yeah. Is that the right word for that? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A seam of coal illuminated by a tiny dripping candle in front of their hard hat. Period. New paragraph. They let themselves in through the back, or rather the hole in the wall. They just park the truck there, blah, 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 blah. So this whole story is broken up into small paragraphs, regardless if there's any subject change or scene change or anything like that. Yeah. So the story has conditioned me to stay in the same scene, even if the paragraph changes by this point. So when it said they let themselves in through the back, I thought it was still talking about like the NETS, talking about how like they snuck into the scene the easy way or something, like to get the job here. But no, It's literally they snuck in the back door.
Love it.
Yeah. Also, it says that Victor has always been here, but with one exception, but it doesn't say what that exception was.
Wait, hang on a second. Hang on, where is that?
That's why I read the whole thing.
Yeah.
He'd always been there with one exception. NETS contracted full-time to Sweetbrook in the mines, blah, 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 blah.
Wait, yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah! What the hell's that even talking about?
What does that even mean? Anyway.
Yeah.
Unless So I have a theory in my actual thoughts coming up. So, but I'll save it for now.
Okay. So I'm right for now, unless you break it.
Maybe.
We shall see. Which actually segues nicely to my next sentence I'm going to say. Means nothing, period. I get one bar tops by my desk. So, yeah, just the way it read seemed weird. The way it actually read is means nothing, period. And then I get one bar tops by my desk.
I mean, I
He gets
understand what
a
he's
bar top by his desk. Like
No,
the top
I
of a
remember
bar.
he gets one bar on his it's bar of like his data or his cell signal. Yeah.
Yes, I know, because I was
Yeah.
talking about a cell phone before that, but the way it reads isn't how you would say it. The way I would say it is means nothing. I get one bar tops by my desk. Like you kind of have to separate the tops
Or
by either commaing it out or ellipses and then capitalize tops.
I would actually, I would say like not even ellipses, just do like I get one bar and then all caps tops.
Yeah.
And then like maybe a comma and then by my desk.
Yes. For sure. Because otherwise he's saying I get one bar tops by my desk.
Yeah.
This next one is when they're in the asylum and the meth skeleton starts speaking. What are you doing in my house? Came the voice, except it came out my house.
My house.
So I like that there's flavoring to this. I think it should be flipped, though, to lead the way it sounded. Because the way I first read it is just all of a sudden you hear, what are you doing in my house? Like, that's what I heard in my head first, and then it got corrected to my house.
Yeah. Then they added like it's like, oh, you should. By the way, you should be reading the meth heads dialogue like this.
Yeah, and later on, they don't correct his weird speeches at all.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a weird outlier. It should just be said with
He just has sporadic. He just has sporadic, like redneck accent. Like otherwise he speaks he speaks like perfectly normal otherwise, but he just has like a speech impediment, like sort of like a speech impediment where he it just suddenly goes redneck periodically. Yeah.
And my last one, there was a soft click and a sun blossomed in the center of the universe. Ramir and Victor held up their hands like they could hold back the floodlight if they just applied themselves.
See, I fucking hate that line.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell was being said at first. I had to read it a couple of times. So I understand now, and I rewrote it. This is how I would write it personally. There was a soft click and a sun blossomed in the center of the room, blinding them. Then bring the floodlight up and say the flood. Hang on. I do it like this. There was a soft click in the sun, and a sun blossomed in the center of the room. A floodlight turned on, blinding them. Period. And then move on.
Yeah, because honestly, I read that 3 times because I was like, did somebody just get shot? Because a soft click and a sun blossomed in the room. It's like, so that to me that doesn't. At first I didn't go flashlight until like 4 or 5 reads through, and then I kept reading. Oh, okay, because I read that as like soft click and then a sun blossomed, a muzzle flash. Yeah, exactly.
The way I thought of it was like one of them snapped his fingers and then he spawned a sun in the middle of the room to like cook them. Like he's a wizard.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like they disturbed a meth wizard.
Yeah.
Also, meth wizard is the name of my high school grunge band.
Of course.
And one more thing about that, applied themselves is italicized.
Are you kidding me?
Fucking serious?
I said I didn't want to talk about it anymore, Mikey.
God damn it!
It is. Why? Why?
Where is this? I'm trying to find it.
Just search for applied themselves. That's the only time it says it. It's right above got a fancy laptop.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, hang on. There was a soft click, and the sun blossomed in the center of the universe. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, the
A little
universe is the
too-
thing that made it
a
so
little
weird.
too. Okay, whoever wrote this, a little too purple pro there.
Mhm.
Like
if universe was switched to room, it'd be way easier to understand.
exactly, yeah. And also like from again, like I think the reason, like yeah, like and a sun blossoms at the center of the universe. That might is like to me that like for some reason that doesn't speak of like a flashlight going on. It means a gun has just like ended a life. Like Ramir or Victor are dead from a gunshot. But Ramir and Victor held up their hands like they could hold back the floodlight if they just applied themselves. So it's okay. So maybe they use the italics for another reason than it has been previous in the story, and that is to emphasize something. But it's like, the fuck?
Which I believe, like
We
okay.
literally just had a conversation like last week about how like an italics is good for emphasis when used properly. This is not how you use italics properly.
It would be if there wasn't also thoughts being done with italics. If the thoughts were done in single quotes, then yes.
Okay, so we are gonna talk about italics again because like I read earlier. Where's the part with the MacGyver? Yeah, so it's it says like the other on the instrument MacGyver which is in italics in green, not in italics. Then in italics again, seriously spelled it wrong to boot. So we have italics being used as like to notate that there is like a transcription of graffiti.
Yes.
Then we have in the next sentence italics being used to denote thought process, like personalized thought process.
And you can't tell the difference?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
And then a couple of paragraphs later, we have applied themselves in italics to denote an emphasis of like if they just applied themselves, they could do this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off. Do not use italics. If you're going to use italics, at least use it for one meaning in your entire story, not three different ways.
Yeah, you can do underlines, there's bold and italics, and you can do combinations of them. Like you just laid out 3 different ways that they used italics.
Yeah.
If they just swapped one of them to underline, one of them to bold, and one of them to italics, you'd be able to know just right away what each one is, just based on how they're using each.
Mm-hmm. This is just this is actually very appropriate for grammar acquisition because this is seriously a grammar formatting thing.
Yeah.
Liked this story before we entered grammar acquisition, by the way.
How dare you? Well, I'm glad we're ruining it for you. Anyways, that's the end of my grammar in yellow.
All right, on to actual thoughts. His chest heaved. What the hell are you doing? Pulling this kind of shit. It's been a long time since Desert Storm. Who are you kidding? It's been a long time since basic training. You are an engineer in Canada, for fuck's sakes. Okay, so I know this was meant to be dramatic. Like he's like because his Ramir just died and such, and he just pulled off a stunt that probably got Ramir killed. Like that was the reason. But a part of me couldn't help but like see this somewhat comedically, like. He's just now confessing that he's a poser American. Like he's actually a Canadian with like a green card or something, or like a dual citizen.
No, he's saying he was stationed in Canada, like helping them out or something.
I just it was just like this. I'm like, it's been a long time since Desert Storm. Oh, what am I kidding? It's been a long time since basic training. Oh, what the fuck am I kidding? I'm Canadian, not American.
I'm not even in the army.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. Yeah, like I know it's supposed to be dramatic, and I took it that way, but I also like part of me was just like chuckling because it was like, mainly because of the engineer in Canada part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it didn't help that he referred to his best friend being murdered as being turned into a Pez dispenser right before that.
That did not help.
Yeah.
God, I will give this story this much: it has some very fun, if very morbid and dark, descriptors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think I mentioned one later in one of my my notes here, but I will move on. He surged forward, didn't know how long he had before the meth necks circled back around. That haunted little slice of Palin's real America. Honestly, so this like this so I'm using this sentence as an example, but there's a bunch of other examples in the story for this. But honestly, with all the little nods to dark Americana, Like the building's racy, shady, grim history, the urban decay of it, like with the graffiti and all that stuff, the racist meth head rednecks. I really feel like the title for the story could have just been called American Horror Story. Like, this felt very much like a horror story that was emphasizing like American horror, like modern American horror. Just like given like all the different, like you've got like a very traditional American horror setting, like an asylum in the middle of West Virginia. You've got an antagonizing force, a bunch of redneck meth heads that are completely racist towards anybody that's not white. And then it just goes on, and like it keeps going. Like they're on ATVs and they've got guns, and like it's just America, the horror story. Like we're going to use this before, and this is even before we get to like, you know, the creature that pops up at the end. But like we're going to use this as game fodder, like even before the ending of the story. I'd probably use A Dirty World, which is a noir thriller style RPG that you can totally use for mundane horror. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, I don't want to say cliche, but cliche stuff that's been done and everyone knows that it's stereotypical America horror kind of deal.
Yeah, but I feel like the story just kind of dives just headlong into them, so it like sort of like embraces it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a bad thing that they use these tropes. I think because they're embracing it so much, it like they're pouring it on like biscuits and gravy. Another American euphemism. But yeah, no, I think it's very much hammers like the horror of America nowadays. So I do actually kind of give the story credit for like making this horror story in Ichor Falls, a haunted town in West Virginia, be all about America and its terribleness. And then slap a supernatural thing right at the end. But I will get back to more on that in a second. I will move on to my next comment here, which is during the dream sequence, we get this line when he falls into the water and the cold water like seizes him and stuff like that. Then, like those Christmas shoppers dumped from the silver bridge, the cold seized him. And to this, I read that as like, oh shit, they're referencing another American, like Americana reference, like a historical American like tragedy. I did have to Google to make sure, but I recognized the Silver Bridge collapse of 1967 in Point Pleasant, which is 20 minutes drive from Ichor Falls, according to Google Maps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think we've referenced this before because Point Pleasant is also, and the reason why I know about the Silver Bridge collapse is because it's also been associated with sightings of the Mothman in Point Pleasant. Yeah. Like there are some people that think that like the Mothman was like a harbinger of that tragedy because it was seen like flying over the bridge as it collapsed or something like that.
Yeah, that's his MO, isn't it?
Yeah, he's supposed to be like a harbinger of like a foreteller of doom. Like when he appears, something bad's going to happen. At least in some theories. But yeah, no, I liked that kind of nod of like to another like horror, again, another terrible thing in American history was the Silver Bridge. Like the fact that just like those Christmas shoppers dumped from the Silver Bridge, the cold seized him. It's like, yeah, because I think it was also in December when that bridge collapsed. So the Ohio River would have been like ice cold.
Mm.
So yeah, not like it's a bit morbid, but it was like, again, we're talking about horror stories. Shit's gonna get dark. So I appreciate the dark analogs that they're using and like the dark wording that they're used in the story. So.
I thought they were referencing something that was in lore of Ichor Falls and not a real thing.
Nope. And again, like later on, he's like wandering through the Stillwood, trying to get to, I think it's Road 76 or something like that. And he's like worried, like he's like flailing his hands over to like try and get attention. And he's like worried that somebody's gonna like think he's like another Mothman sighting or something because he was also talking about like being very like he could have walked through the Stillwood and made his way into Point Pleasant. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like again, I Google mapped it because somebody has strangely enough, put a marker where Ichor Falls is supposed to be along the Ohio River. And it is like not even a 20-minute drive from Ichor Falls to Point Pleasant, just slightly north of up the Ohio River. So it's cool that this little fictional haunted town has these little routes that people give it in both stories and like on Google Maps to put it somewhere close to another town that has embraced a creepy side of it. Like Point Pleasant has embraced the Mothman sightings and stuff like that in their businesses and tourism.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost wonder now, like if Ichor Falls. Oh, I just realized I could go to Ichor Falls next year. Like, I'm going to be driving to Point Pleasant at some point next year, hopefully, with some buddies.
There you go.
So I might actually try and convince them, like, hey, so it's just like 20 minutes outside of Point Pleasant. You guys want to go to where Ichor Falls is supposed to be? All right. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Moving on to my next comment. He descended into the black as smoothly as a knife through your best friend's throat. That's just a really, again, morbid, but it's just a really cool turn of phrase and very appropriate given what happens to poor Ramir.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on to my last actual thought, but it's a doozy. Victor propped himself up on one palm and one elbow and caught himself laughing too. The men stopped. They didn't get the joke. He heard all over as he staggered to his feet, and still he laughed. You missed, Victor laughed and dabbed his finger against his oozing wound. Another slug tore through him. Victor flew backwards and landed on his ass. He laughed even more. Like many of the creeks running through the Stillwood, this one was fed by the Ohio. The meth necks plunged up to the ankles in their filthy boots. Now they were in his domain. And then later it's like in her domain, as the creature bubbles up out of the water and like sort of springs her a trap. That being Mary, as we find out. And like honestly, I was expecting some kind of supernatural end, or like ending revelation thing here to happen, like something. At least I maybe like, because otherwise this would have been the I think one of the most mundane horror stories I've read set in Ichor Falls. Just like,
yeah, for sure.
Bunch of meth heads just kill a couple of survey guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, especially since we go into like the still, like he ventures into the Stillwood. It's like, well, wow, we're getting a lot of Stillwood King love here apparently. But then we get the ending of this story where Mary is revealed to be the titular Rasulka, or rather a Rusulka. Like, so in the title is spelled Rasulka, but Rusulka, Rusalka, which they can be like they can replace one another. Like they are like they're just different ways of spelling the same word. But a Rasulka. I knew vaguely of them beforehand, but I double checked on Wikipedia and stuff with that to make sure I had the right of it. There's many legends of it, but the Rasulka are a Slavic river or forest mermaid, essentially, and not a nice kind in most cases. Like they reside in rivers and ponds, and they lure men to them like seductively, and then drown them. though sometimes they mate and marry them. So this is basically a pararomantic buddy horror. As it turns out, like it's just sort of like at the very end, it pulls this sort of thing.
I guess
because it seemed like right at the end,
like they're not really talking though, so I don't know how buddy they are.
Well, no, because it seemed like Victor was in on this. Like it's almost like he lured or he like happened to lure the meth heads into this area, either advertently or inadvertently. Now, the problem with the story is that it's sort of too disjointed in some parts, and this is where it kind of like loses me a few times, where it's like, was this all planned? Because it didn't sort of lead. There was no real hints to it, except for some things that I started picking up after I read the story, and while I was, and also like while I was reading the story, it's like, well, that's something weird that he'd say. Like, what what the hell does he mean by that? But then at the end of the story, when we get this revelation that like Mary is a Rasulka and has appeared, and basically to deal with the meth heads that are about to kill Victor, it got me wondering: is Victor himself one of the potential creatures, or an undead servitor of Mary? So I've got a couple of quotes to back my theory. So I'll have to pass. My heart will always belong to Mary. That's what he says at the beginning of the story, and could just be a romantic metaphor of like a heartbroken man, or perhaps a hint of necromantic nature. I'll continue. Can't blame him. I'd rather have Mary rip out my heart again. Again, perhaps another metaphor of romance, or not. Perhaps Mary has literally ripped out his heart. And then another one that kind of felt weird to me when he said it. This is what crying would feel like. Why would you not know how to cry? Well, he's in the munitions thing and kind of like feeling down on himself. He just sort of like, this is what crying would feel like. I was like, it seemed like really weird that he'd say that.
I took that one as basically he's a badass soldierman and he doesn't cry. Because he's a man and men don't cry. Yeah, see, that's what I was like, partially like at the time I waved it off as like, that's probably what that means. But then at the end I was like, did it mean something more? Like, and then the other thing that kind of got me was a black rose blossomed over his chest, and this is like when the first bolt or bullet went through him, and then he like gets up afterward, like while he's laughing, and like dabs the wound, and is like, you missed. But it was like it blossomed over his chest, and it's black. It's like, why was it black? Maybe just the lighting of the scene, or maybe he's not entirely human. Yeah, like if it's kind of like dark out and you're wet from being in the water and shit, if you get shot, it's not going to be like a bright red bleeding through your shirt. It's going to come out like a darkish color.
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole black rose and all that, it's considering there was a universe that opened up in the center of the the sun opened in the universe earlier. That's in the what I assumed. Yeah, no, and I get that. Yeah, but like at the same time, it's like, also like him getting up and like still laughing, and then like getting blown apart, like blown away again by a bullet to the chest, and still laughing, and then like, you're in his domain now. Wait, no, and then Mary shows up, or more specifically, you're in her domain now, as Mary shows up behind them, and it was just like, okay, so. Again, this is just sort of like a weird theory that kind of popped in my head after getting that revelation at the end that like Mary was actually a creature and he lured them out here in his escape. But it was just like, so like there's little bits of the story that like kind of read weird when I first read them, and then like at the end it kind of had me thinking, now is he like, because he was apparently in on this. Is he not more than human as well? Because like, again, he got shot twice and was still laughing and like getting up and stuff. So it could be terrible shots and not hitting anything vital, or they could be shooting like him with like birdshot or a 22.
Yeah, or they could have just like shot him straight through the chest, and like he doesn't, but because he doesn't have a heart anymore, because Mary like supernaturally pulled it out. Like it went to where his heart would have been, but it's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the scene isn't really described well enough to know all these specifics, to know whether or not it's one way or the other. Because it could just be there are superficial wounds, they're not really deep, didn't hit anything super important, or something magical like what you're saying. Yeah.
The other issue I have with the story is, like, I really like the ending, like the way it turns out, because fuck these meth heads, they need to die. Like, rest in peace, Ramir. These assholes deserve what they're getting from being attacked by, like, getting basically entrapped by the Mary monster.
I mean, she didn't even do anything. They could have just ran away. They could
I
have
know,
just
but
got on their ATVs and got away for all you know.
Yes, that could have happened. However, the way the story says it at the end, there's always a bigger fish, and these guys were about to find out, like, the big fish usually eat the smaller fish in the pond, like, i.e., Mary's about to kill these fucking racist meth heads.
Cut to the next story, which has the meth heads as the heroes.
Yeah, we done did it. Yeah. Not my America, son of a bitch. Oh, that would be the worst. That would be like the worst. Like, yeah,
The best / worst thing to do.
I mean, yeah, it would be like an interesting, like, okay, well, you know what? I commend you for breaking expectation, but that was a dumb breaking of expectation. Because to me personally, I think it's more cathartic if these racist assholes get their due.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the story. But again, like, that kind of, like, satisfying, like, feeling I got from the ending of, like, oh yeah, these guys are going to get it, was kind of partially pulled away from me because the story is sort of disjointed in parts. Like, again, because of how it doesn't transition properly between, like, certain scenes and stuff like that. And even, like, the monster Mary, like, we really, like, I did just bring up a bunch of, like, lines and like quotes from the story that might be interpreted as, like, Mary or specifically Victor talking about him possibly not being human or what have you. But it also kind of comes out of the blue at the end. Like, this was like the first draft of somebody writing this kind of story, and they haven't worked out they haven't smoothed out all the wrinkles in the plot.
I mean, of course it comes out of the blue. She comes out of the water right there.
Technically, she comes out of the black.
Man.
You son of a fucking bitch! Fucking kill you. But yeah, no, it comes out kind of, like, out of nowhere. Like, this last paragraph, like, up until this last paragraph or two, this story was completely mundane horror. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you. My note on this starts with ending is straight out of Left Town.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm conflicted because I liked the ending. It gave me a nice kind of, like, conclusive feeling. However, I feel like it needs to be more refined. I think the way it's presented, it feels very early concept. Like, yeah. I understand what they're trying to do here, but the execution's not perfect. Like, there's definitely some missing holes here that we need to, like, fill in with some proper, like, segues and such.
Yeah. Well, to me, it seemed like they had the ending thought up in advance because of the name of the story.
Yeah.
So they sprinkled stuff in the beginning, and then a very small amount throughout, and then at the end it's just bam, there it is. And it's like, okay, well, the majority of the story isn't about her.
Yeah, it is about her, but it's, like, indirectly about her because he's talking about her incessantly throughout the story. And she's always on his mind. Like, again, even the dream sequence could just be a fucking dream sequence because he tripped on a chain. Yep. And he's aware that it's a dream. So he's like, it's being narrated as if it's just a regular, like, just a dream that he had. And again, he's in Ichor Falls, so they have, like, a timber industry. They like, people know about the history of the timber industry in Ichor Falls and, like, the coal industry and all that stuff. So, and they're just north of Point Pleasant on the Ohio River. So, like, it makes sense if he's a local that he'd have some of that kind of stuff in his head, or maybe it's just Ichor Falls just implanting that into his dreams to show, like, kind of like, maybe, like, when people dream in Ichor Falls, they dream of its history. But again, it could still just be perfectly mundane, or, like, at the very least, not actively supernatural. Perhaps simply passively supernatural. But it also, it kind of makes sense in regards to Mary's nature, because it's about drowning people in the Ohio River, and it does reference that all the creeks in the Stillwood lead up to the Ohio River. So I guess Mary is a Rasulka that resides in the Ohio River, and as a result, also all the creeks within the Stillwood and around Ichor Falls. But it's still kind of sketchy. Like you said, they dot a bunch of information. They might have had a lot more information, or they might have had like a plan or some ideas, some plot ideas that they wanted to put into the story, but they haven't elaborated or like they haven't fleshed it out or like trimmed and refined the story to kind of flow with the, or like to kind of like flow in and around that stuff. So it sort of just kind of clunkily hits them as it goes. To use a river metaphor, it's just sort of like some rocks that were just dumped into the river and aren't like exactly like fixing the river's like flow and such. But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. Unless you guys have something more about that. No? Okay.
Yes and no. I've been chiming in with stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you have more to talk about it, like we can.
I'll get to it in my own notes. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, the stands for evil.
All right. My biggest issue with this story is the transitions, as we mentioned earlier in the grammar.
Yeah.
And the lack of description. Like, they throw things out there and then it's not fully described. And where it really hits is the quote here. They turned on their heels back towards the staircase. A grinning skull stood in their way. Like,
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's a good visual. Like, I could see like that in a movie. Like, they turn around and there's like a skull like face in the darkness. But then it needs to explain why that's not a supernatural element. Because at the first you're just like, and here's where the pin drops and there's something supernatural happening. But then it's just meth heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's like it's described as a skull because when you see it just quickly, he straight up looks like a skeleton because of how pale and gaunt he is.
Yeah, no,
For
exactly.
a split second, you're like, it's a skeleton. No, it's a dude.
Yeah, but I don't think like I did read this yesterday, but I don't think there is actually a transitionary thing in between like the skull appearing and then it kind of being known that they're meth heads, or they just say they're meth heads. It's like, oh, okay, but like I feel like there should be a little bit more like Mikey's saying. I think there should be a little bit more descriptor in the middle there to reveal that he had like a flashlight on him, so he looked even more like just like it was just spotlighting his face in the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next line is him asking, "What are you doing in my house?" And then it says, "An age-beaten hand scratched a stubbly face."
Yeah, which messed with my head canon because it goes from a grinning skull to a skull with a stubbly face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, a skull is a bone. If you're seeing bone, you're not seeing skin. So
yeah, so there needs to be something there to like clarify. No, not a skull, just a very like sunken face.
Yeah.
How about a grinning skull-like face?
That would have been better.
Just dash-like is all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of these are, he's like a skeleton.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot better than saying meth skeleton.
I'm going to fight you on that. But
meth skeleton, to me, initially meant a skeleton made out of meth.
See, if you take it literally, sure. But like when I read that like meth skeleton, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because he's a meth addict who's taken so many drugs that he's become like a skeleton. Like it's describing what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I also just really like that between meth skeleton and meth neck. Like,
yeah,
they're just like really morbid and dark, but great like descriptors for like a meth addict antagonist.
Yeah. So and then later it goes on saying the skeleton shrugged, and it's like,
Well, they have to refer to him as something. They're not going to ask him what his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but they should have continued with the meth skeleton or something, not just
They could have also just been like druggy.
yeah, or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
But basically, the issue is because of the transition not working out the greatest and the description not being there, I ended up just being overly confused the first time I read through this section.
Mhm.
And then when I got to the section that says Ramir's crumpled body, I was like, wait, did something happen to Ramir? And I had to go back.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Same. Actually, yeah. I think all three of us now like had a situation there where it's like, wait, Ramir died?
You didn't
Fuck.
mention that in
I
your
did-
notes?
I did mention he died in the rundown.
No, I
did,
mean in your notes you didn't mention the fact that you didn't notice he died.
no. I got they died. Like I just like I didn't mention in my notes that like
You
I didn't
just
get.
said
I-
that you
I-
were surprised that he died, that you missed that he died. You just said that.
The first time
Did I
I read it,
mishear
I
you?
missed that. No, the first time I read it, I missed that. Like I had to double take because like, wait, he died.
Yes, which
But
sounds
I didn't-
noteworthy
I-
to me.
and I
I'm
did-
just asked.
Yeah,
Okay,
I didn't put it in my notes. All right.
I'm just saying I'm surprised you didn't make a note of it. That's all.
All right. Well, I didn't.
Okay, that's fine.
So basically, for me, when that happened, I was like, okay, something's not right. I'm just going to stop reading for today and come back to it tomorrow.
hmm
And then I eventually, because I slept on it, was able to piece things together and continue reading. So, and that takes me to my next quote here. Victor tumbled over a root or downed branch on the ground, and his hands ran over a white dome, an igloo. An igloo in the middle of the forest.
And then it describes.
And then
what
it
is.
describes it, but just that visual of a snowy igloo for that split second before I get the description that it's a bunker.
Yeah, it's a dome shaped shelter in the.
Yeah,
in
and
the
that's a
forest.
better description than igloo.
Okay.
Igloo might be a military term for like the hatch on a bunker or something.
I mean, I don't think so. Not to keep fighting you. I don't mean to actually do that, but
Yes, you do.
I mean maybe.
Yeah. So my issue there is that there's better descriptions, like Cultist just pointed out, a domed bunker in a forest is a much better description than an igloo.
Definition of the term igloo space per official documentation of the United States Department of Defense.
Yep.
Igloo space, area in an earth-covered structure of concrete and or steel designed to store ammunition and explosives. So it is.
Dictionary.com, military, a dome-shaped building for the storage of rockets or other munitions.
Yeah, so it is actually a term, Mikey, for the munitions storage units that they had all across like West Virginia. Like again, the one of the theories for the Mothman is that because they have these kind of like munition storage units like from World War I and II in all like dotting in the woods of West Virginia to kind of conceal them from enemy spies and stuff like that. And because they were there and they've been left there for decades, there's people that think that the Mothman is the result of mutation from like the chemicals and stuff that were stored in these bunker things, these igloo spaces. But sorry, Mikey, it does say that it is actually a military term.
What I don't get is like, is it a bunker where just like it's all underground, or is it
No.
a giant like on the ground bunker?
No, yeah, it's not an underground thing. It's on the ground. It's like a giant earthen structure.
How did he trip on a giant structure then?
He tripped on a root and then like landed like on like through the mist because he can't see because of all the mist and fog, and so he tripped on the root or branch, which I honestly think you should just choose one or the other, not.
His hands ran over a white dome.
Yeah, his hands ran over. So like he like went to trip, and rather than fall onto the ground completely, he fell onto the wall of this thing that was concealed in the mist.
guess when I visualized he ran his hands over a white dome, it was like basically the size of like a manhole cover of a dome.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not what I visualized, but
Which also was kind of just hammered home even more because it said like he went into the bunker. So I imagine, okay, he lifted it up and he climbed down the ladder into the bunker and closed it over his head. It's like a hatch. That's what I assumed.
I just saw that he like opened the latch and went in through the side of the igloo and closed it. I think we can all agree that this story's not the greatest. Like, it's a little bit disjointed in terms of like how it is telling the story.
Yeah, I think your visualization of the bunker is correct. Now that I'm rereading it, it said he pushed it open and threw his body against the other side, closing it hard.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to throw your body up.
Yeah,
close it because pushing up opens it, not closes it.
Well, I think it's just because I have like not experience with them, but I because I looked up stuff for the Mothman in my youth. I knew that I knew what those munition huts and shelters looked like.
Yeah.
So I had a pre-existing visual.
Yeah, I just imagine it like a survival bunker.
Yeah.
Either way.
Mikey.
Yeah. So either way, I still don't like the use of igloo.
That's fair.
I agree.
And that's the end of my actual thought.
Okay.
Alrighty. Yeah, early on, it says, his thumb hovering over the big red decline button, he walked over to the window behind his desk. The phone reported no bars, and the call disconnected. So, just, like, this is my first read-through. I sure hope there's a reason that he's avoiding what I assume is his wife/fiance at this point. Otherwise, he's kind of painting himself to be a jerk, because he had bars where he was sitting at his desk.
And then he walked.
And it seems like he seeked out a spot with bad reception so he could just say that he lost connection.
Yeah.
It's just weirdly set up like that.
Well, and it does later go on to like, again, before the monster reveal, it does go on to say that like she like ripped out his heart. So like there's obviously some kind of breakup situation going on.
Oh,
Which also throws in a hamper at the end because, like, why did she come and protect him if they broke up? Why didn't he just get eaten by her if she was indeed the monster? Anyway,
right from Jump Street, I'm just confused.
Yeah,
basically, is what that note is.
Actually, you bring up a point that I actually have another actual thought.
Okay.
In regards to the signal chasing, like. It doesn't make sense to me why they're going into the abandoned building and checking for signal.
Yeah, I have a note on that.
I had a note, and for some reason it wasn't in my note, but I just remembered I did put one down about all the IT slang. It's like, should check in with Mikey about how accurate this IT stuff all is in this.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
later on, I'll let you continue, Mikey. But later on, my note on this is no bars. Victor said. He clipped his cell phone back onto his belt. For a moment, the screen illuminated. Jenny stilled my wood and still wood in blue. And then it goes on the next line down. Well, we gave it our best. Next line down. Means nothing. I get blah, 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 blah. And my note is basically like, what is it that they're getting paid to check out the cell reception? I thought they were doing a survey of the site.
Yeah.
I assume it's just meant to show how Ramir just wants to go. Like him saying, well, I guess we did our best. We're leaving. It seems like that's all they're there for, as you were saying, Mikey.
Yeah. And the whole bringing out the laptop and bringing out a Linksys box, the thought process is if it's a cell phone type box, it has the same technology as their cell phones. If it's checking for Wi-Fi signal, because it's a Wi-Fi antenna, that's a slightly different story, but why are they checking to see if there's Wi-Fi that can be connected in an abandoned building?
In a building that's been abandoned since 1998, I think, is what it was? Or,
I don't think it's Wi-Fi, mainly because, well, I don't know when Wi-Fi was first a thing, but one of them has a freaking pager. So that kind of dates it right there.
I also wonder, it's like maybe they were looking for, like, maybe they were testing, like they were surveying the site to see where was the strongest signal within the building. Maybe?
Yeah.
Like
But
that's
possibly.
because again, like
Just for like cell reception.
Yeah, because I mean, again, this is sort of bringing me back to like the Liz 4 story we read a couple weeks ago, where it's like a survey team going to a decommissioned bunker or like base, and then this group is like going to this base, and I was like, why? So they're going in to survey this place for the company so the company can renovate it, but they're sending IT guys in to survey. It's like, are they,
before they like clean everything out and make sure it's not hostile.
Yeah, like why would they send the IT guys in? Like my best guess is that like they're just testing, they're surveying the building to see where the best like where the best connection strength is. Or if like some of the walls maybe are blocking signals, sort of thing. But like it just seems really weird otherwise.
Yeah, it's like without their survey, they don't know if they're going to bother putting money and sending guys in to clear the place out. I guess.
But the thing is, all they have to do is walk around the outside of the building to check the signal. And then they know if they're getting signal to the building.
No, I think it's more along the lines of whether or not they have signal in the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's walls and structure and stuff that's interfering with shit so much that they can't like set up their stuff properly inside.
But it sounds like they don't even really have signal outside.
No, not really.
Yeah, well, because it's Ichor Falls.
Yeah.
So if they don't have signal outside, where's the likelihood they're going to have signal inside?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Although maybe that is also why the company wanted to check. It's like, well, we better be. I mean, Ichor Falls sucks as a. I don't know why we have such a high IT industry in Ichor Falls ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially given how shoddy the connections are in this town. But might as well send these guys in to see if they can make sure there's no like some steel beams or like brick and mortar walls that are blocking signal even more than the regular town. It just seems kind of weird.
So,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It just seems like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So I guess we can safely say that the New Elysium Technologies company is based out of Derpland.
Yep.
The state of Derpland.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. All right, and you continue on, Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay, I'll digress. So this next one, I'm just going to read, and just reading this the first time, it made me realize how much you could change a sentence just by adding a word. This is when he's leaning out the window, seeing the hospital through the mist in the distance. He rested his forehead on the window pane. It was damp with cool condensation from the mist hanging in the air. He almost wished he could stay here forever. Opening his eyes, he could almost make out the distant lines of Sweet Brook Hospital and a wraith in the distance. Pretty casual about your ghost sightings these days, eh?
Yeah. Wait, hang on.
That's what I'm saying. I added in a hand because it just said Sweet Brook Hospital, a wraith in the distance. If you add "and" in there, then all of a sudden,
yes. Okay, that was confusing because wait, it doesn't say "and" a wraith because it's denoting that like in the mists, like the outline, like he can just make out the outline of the building aside from like the light on like the one part of the tower or whatever. So it's just like this ghostly image in the fog, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is poetic. It is metaphorical.
Indeed. That's why I tried to lead this one by saying you could change a sentence a lot by adding one word.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Then these next two are sort of they're blanket statements to the story itself. How the location changed a lot, me reading it. Like me trying to get into headspace of where the hell they are, just like in the start of it. Because it starts out with me assuming that he's in an office building or something, or maybe at home because it says desk, and that's about it. Yeah. And then it says, this was his lighthouse. So I'm like, okay, I assumed he's in a lighthouse now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next sentence said, if he ventured too close, he'd wreck himself on the docks. So I'm like, okay, he's in a boat now. All right. And then a few sentences later, it says his office was on the upper floor of what used to be Halleck Mayer department stores. I'm like, okay,
it's
I guess
Halleck
that's where he is
Meyer.
now.
It doesn't help that the story tries to be poetic in flowery descriptions, because he's referencing the lighthouse and like getting too close, like it's emotional, like kind of lighthouse, because he can see the lights. The only thing he can see from the Sweetwater, or Sweetwater, is it Sweetbrook hospital, is the light on the top of where the helipad is. And like he's like thinking about it's like my lighthouse, like because because Mary works there. Emotionally, if he gets too close, he's just going to get hurt or wrecked again. Like it's
like him attempting to go there, he could get wrecked just before he even gets there.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like
I get
him,
it, but
it is a symbol. It's symbolism, but it's like almost like for some people, it's almost too flowery. Like if they take it too literal,
there needs to be a freaking. If there was already a description of where the hell he is, then fine, because I already know he's there for sure. But there's so many, like, I assume he's here. Maybe he's here now, because it's not giving me anything that's rooting me down in the position of where he is. It's just anywhere.
Like 6 paragraphs down, it says that his office is on the upper floor of what used to be Halleck Meyer department store.
Yeah, if it led with that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it ended with that.
Yeah.
So I was just confused the entire time.
Okay, fair enough.
Just swapping through dimensions. He's in an office building. He's in a lighthouse. Now he's on a boat.
Now he's in
I'm on a horse.
His office is on the second floor of a department store.
Mm-hmm. I'm on a horse.
What kind of department store? It could be like a department store warehouse sort of thing, like a Foodland, or like a Home Hardware sort of thing, where like they have that small second floor sort of area where all like the managerial stuff goes. Or it could be literally just a 2-story building, like in a downtown area, which is probably what I'm expecting more. It's like one of those like old town like shops that's 2 stories.
Pretty much.
But again, who knows? Because it's Ichor Falls.
Mm-hmm.
The mist confuses landscapes. Maybe he was on all of those things. Because
yeah,
again,
he's just swapping through dimensions.
Yeah, because it's Ichor Falls.
Mm-hmm. Then my next blanket statement to the story is, in regards to his relationship to Mary, seemed to changed a lot. Like when reading it, because at first he was like reluctant to pick the phone up, rubbing like the band on his finger, which makes me assume wife/fiance, because I read band. It said pale, but I read that as like a silver wedding band.
No, it's because
that's what it's called, a band. I know that. Hindsight is 20/20. Yes. I know that by the end. When I'm doing my notes, I'm telling you how I'm reading it as I'm reading it. So early on, I assumed it was a wedding band because it said it's still a pale band on his finger or whatever. Mm-hmm. Make me assume that, okay, it's a wife or a fiance. And then his friend right after that told him like to do some like dating with him.
Yeah,
and he's saying like no. Yeah, and he's saying that no, my heart always belongs to Mary. So the line "my heart will always belong to Mary" almost sounds like she straight up died. Because he's not mad or nothing. So I thought that she died at that point. But then later he says he'd rather have Mary rip his heart out again, which sounds like she cheated on him or something. So now he's angry at her, but she's still alive now.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I interpret it. It seems like, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm perfect, right? Like interpreting this kind of this bullshit in writing, but I got it. Like I collected the information in the story and got it. Like, all right, so he's having some troubles with his girlfriend/fiance/wife because of the band on his reluctance to talk to her on the phone. The band, like he's looking at the pale band on his finger. So he used to have a ring on it, but he no longer does. And he's talking about like how his heart will always belong to Mary. So like he still has feelings for her, but clearly he was on it. Clearly it was her that broke up with him, sort of thing. Mm. So there's like that's where the troubles kind of like that's where I was collecting the information for that. But again, it's interesting that like we like how different our views are, or like how different we correlate information from a story.
I just read it as is.
That's fair. Yeah.
And because nothing is said clearly, I have to make assumptions on things. And because I'm making assumptions based on these flowery lighthouse and galaxy universe sun descriptions, it's kind of hard to lock down what's going on.
It's because you don't look too deep into things.
Apparently.
And I mean that's a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Yeah.
To take things at face value, but
either way.
Yes.
Moving on. Next one is just there's way too many places and businesses listed in this story. It's like really overwhelming. I started listing them until I got like tired of listing them. There's the office that he has over Mayer Department Store.
Halig Meyer Department Store.
I don't give a shit. Sweetbrook Hospital,
Yeah.
Amaranth Mental Hospital, New Haven Rest Home, Sweetbrook Memorial Information Services, New Asylum Technology Solutions, the New Asylum Group, Ichor Falls High, the Amaranth Industrial School for Colored Boys, the Silver Bridge. These are all places that are listed
you
in
missed
this.
One.
Which one did I miss?
Sharkies.
Ah, fuck.
Which I'm guessing is a karaoke bar in town.
Yeah, like there's all this world building, but like 2 of them are used.
Yeah. I really do feel like, I mean, like, again, it gives more depth to the world of Ichor Falls, but the story is about them. Really, at the core of the story, it's like kind of my rundown. He's having some troubles. He decides to break those troubles by doing his actual job and going and surveying this site with his fellow employee. They run into trouble at the site. They do not really leave the site. They go into the woods around the site, but they never actually leave that area. They never really go to anywhere else in Ichor Falls. It's just most of the stuff happens at their office for a few scenes, then the asylum for a few scenes, then the Stillwood for a few scenes. There's only 3 locations they visit.
What a wealth of different buildings and factions and stuff that's going on.
And,
There's just
and I'm gonna counter you because I love those name drops because they build the world around this story. But
yes,
I will admit they have no bearing on this story other than to be name drops and like references to Ichor Falls.
like where does it end? You know, because like is he
We
going to start
can't be
listing?
happy,
There's the
apparently.
old Blockbuster, like
Yeah, like we do.
there's the No
So
Frills.
we just can't be happy apparently because like we bitch about Ichor Falls stories when they don't have any connection to the Ichor Falls series or like story. We bitch about the Ichor Falls stories when there's like a couple of nods to Ichor Falls in the story. Like I think one of the last 2 stories you just read, and then we bitch about the Ichor Falls stories when there's a gratuitous amount of Ichor Falls locations mentioned and nods.
Honestly, I only complain when there's none or too much. A happy medium is
I think we
nice.
bitched about the middle one.
I don't know which story you're talking about, honestly.
I think it might have. There was Wolves of the Stillwood or no, we were bitching about the what the fuck is it called? The one with the whippoorwill guy.
Is that the Damp Lady?
The Damp Lady, yeah.
Yeah, that one had no connection. The Wolves of Stillwood had some connection. This one has too much connection.
Yeah.
I didn't complain about the Wolves of Stillwood. If
I
you
don't
guys
think
did,
you complained
fine.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a week. I can't remember shit.
Super long time. I remember liking it personally.
Okay, well.
Either way, there's too many freaking places in here. Longest. That's the done. That's it. Okay,
Yeah,
so moving on.
I will say actually, I think there is a little too much exposition in the story.
Yeah, there's a lot of padding.
Yeah. But.
Indeed. So, next one. I read this line earlier, but for a different context. He clipped his cell phone to his belt. For a moment, the screen illuminated. Jenny stilled my wood and still wood and blue. So it took me a minute to understand what he was saying, because the last time that Victor took his phone out, he described what was on the screen. So I thought he was saying that some song, like, that was called that, was playing on his phone, or a text came in that said that. But no, he's just saying that the light from the cell phone lit up the wall next to it, which had the graffiti on it.
Because you didn't see the italics of the note that it was a piece of graffiti.
Yeah.
You know,
it wasn't commed out or anything like that. It's
Like-
just laid out in one line.
Yeah. Like I'm joking with you there, but I'm pretty sure I read that at one point the same way. like I thought it was a song. It's like, oh no, it's illuminating a graffiti, but there's no real differentiator from the graffiti. So,
But yeah, the first time his phone was illuminated by Mary's photo, so it's using illuminated two different ways. So it makes you think that that graffiti is on his phone, like that's his lock screen. Basically, it's like that the Jenny Stilled My Wood in Stillwood in blue is on his phone.
it does sound like a song name and a band name. Like Jenny Stilled My Wood in the Stillwood by the Blue.
And it'd be even more confusing if there's a character in the scene named Jenny, because it could be the screen illuminated Jenny.
God.
Like every single instance of graffiti showing up in this is just done not in a very good way.
And it's so annoying because I like the graffiti. Like I like that it's mentioned in the story because it does visualize their surroundings.
Yeah, it's just not described very well.
Yeah, it's not formatted very well too. But
yeah, just description. But yeah, it's fine. Moving on. Let's talk about more graffiti, shall we? One eye following the light, the other on their instruments, period. MacGyver in green, period. Seriously? Spelled it wrong to boot. So, again, comment about graffiti again. But for a second, I thought he was saying that they were like MacGyver, but they were just wearing green for some reason. Like, is he commenting on how shitty their instruments are? They're just kind of like MacGyver together?
Yeah. God damn it.
Because I didn't know it was italics and it doesn't show up and there's no description for the graffiti. Yeah. It's annoying.
I hate that you guys are making me hate this story.
You're welcome. Well, one way that you can correct it, because I actually turned this into a grammar in yellow, I forgot, is like this. One eye following the light, passing over some green graffiti saying MacGyver, in quotes, period. Seriously? Spelt it wrong to boot. Blah, 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 blah.
Bam. Done. Mic drop. Mic key dropped.
Bang. Okay, I believe that's the last mention of graffiti, though, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Now to talk about italics.
No!
No. Next one. Except the New Elysium bulldozers unearthed a mass grave in 1995. The New Elysium bulldozer sounds like a rad sports team, by the way.
It really does sound like the New Elysium. Because here's the other thing. So there's different districts and neighborhoods in Ichor Falls. One of them is Elysium. So it could be like the New Elysium bulldozers is the sports team of that district, of that neighborhood.
It is now.
Yeah, goddamn, New Elysium bulldozers.
Hell yeah!
Going up against the Elethian or the New Alethea Angels.
There you go. Make a whole freaking league.
Oh god, yeah.
Put it
So
into
it's
the
a big old
lore.
ball hockey tournament.
Oh, that's the next story that has to be put out now.
Yeah,
for Falls is some like weird, like mystical freaking sports ball game.
Oh, fall hockey tournament.
Yeah,
Falls hockey tournament.
Nice.
God damn it! Oh yeah, I'm writing down notes.
You get all the weird creatures that are in Ichor Falls to like behave for one day to
All
just play
right.
some ball hockey.
All right, next Patreon episode of Plot Growers. We're going to brainstorm an Ichor Falls ball hockey story.
Nice. All right, my next one. Ramir dashed the spotlight around the room. The black fell away from the table like a cloak dropping to the floor. That's a cool way to say it.
It is.
That's all I wanted to say there. That's neat.
Yep.
So we get to this part, which I've chimed in about. I was just reading normally, and then all of a sudden it says his heel slipped on the blood gouting from Ramir's crumpled body. And my response was, wait, Ramir got hit? When? And I had to go back up and find it. And the line is, the vagrant glanced back for a second, and a silver crescent flared. Period. Ramir gurgled and stumbled forward. That was him dying.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I just like how we keep kicking Ramir's corpse.
yeah, pretty much. But what I don't get is, like, how did they... Like, first off, how did he do that? How did the freaking meth skeleton do this when Victor was holding a knife at his eye? Like, he has the speed... Victor has the speed and reflexes to steal the knife and hold it to his eye before he got to Ramir, but not enough speed to just poke him in the eye in the time that the guy raises a cleaver, steps forward, and attacks Ramir?
There is consequence to this. So, first off, druggies sometimes don't have any like self-preservation inhibitions because of the drug use. So he might have just done that out of rage, like "fuck you, I do what I want," and he did not exit that whole thing like unbledded.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. He missed, but he got a nick through his eyelid. It mentions his eyelid did get nicked by the blade.
A lanced eyelid.
Yeah.
Oh. Right before that, I said it missed, went right past his head.
It missed his eyeball. It didn't miss. It still nicked him.
Now, the thing you have to realize is that it's talking about the vagrant and the meth skeleton. So there's two guys there.
Yeah.
So the vagrant is the one that goes after Ramir, and the meth skeleton is the one that Victor grabs.
Okay.
So Victor can't stop the vagrant from killing Ramir.
And do what he wants, yeah.
Okay, then the problem was it wasn't clear which guy was doing which, I guess. I don't know. It does say vagrant, but I guess because they were both sort of the same, they kind of blended together into one person, sort of.
Yeah, to be fair, I did think that the guy that that Victor had at knife point was the same guy who had the machete or the cleaver ready to kill Ramir. So.
Oh, so he put a knife to the guy that wasn't armed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I didn't catch it either. Like I thought it was I thought the guy one of the vagrants was just sitting in the by the door or something like that, and it was the skull guy that had the cleaver and then also had the knife to his eye and such. But apparently not.
Okay, that makes more sense because I saw it like the guy's a character from a fighting game. Basically, just did a light punch to do a quick slice in like a fraction of a second, just like.
Yeah,
but no. Yeah, that can be described better.
Yeah.
Just the whole way this went over, the death of a main character shouldn't be glanced over like this. I literally missed it. It was so subtle.
Yep. Yep. We all did.
Yeah. In various capacities.
Mm-hmm. And then he gets into the bunker, and it says the door popped open once he pulled his body from it. And I'm like, huh? Is the damn thing like spring loaded and he had to keep his body weight on to keep it shut?
Yeah, I don't know what that meant either.
Yeah. It's a little weird. And we get into chapter 3 because they are chaptered out with numbers.
Yeah, and you're the only one who's brought it up so far.
Yeah, just 1, 2, 3. I think it's 4. It doesn't matter. I don't think there's 1. Either way, it doesn't matter. I get through reading 3, and then by the end it says it's all a dream, and I'm like, oh. It does not lead by saying it's a dream at all.
It does. Hang on.
It does not.
Hang on. It does not lead.
It up earlier.
It does not say that it is. However, he does say something in the third paragraph. The timber payload was en route to the steel mills in Pittsburgh. Victor knew. Oh, there was actually another sentence. Sorry. Victor knew this in the same way we all know our dreams. That's in the third paragraph. So you're a little confused at first, like what the fuck's going on, but then it does explain to you that this is a dream that he's having.
Yeah, but it's not saying he's in a dream. He's just saying he knows this the way that you know
it's
like dreams you have. Not that I'm in a dream.
I'm not. It's not saying it clearly, but it is saying it in the way that it is saying it there, but it's not saying it like adamantly.
Anyways, doesn't matter either way. It's confusing regardless. It's a dream apparently. Okay, fine, whatever. It made me mad. So then we move on to the next one. He wakes up like chained, but like in the igloo of the bunker now, and his back's wet.
Yeah. Continue.
Go. No, go.
No, I was like, this is what me and Mikey have been talking about with like the transitions between things are very clunky, is like there's just things that are said in the story, but they don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
it sounded like he got tripped by one of the meth heads, but then it turned out it was just a piece of chain that apparently tangled around his leg enough that he had to untangle it around over his leg. Like it sounded like it wrapped around his leg.
The way that I read it is he got out of the bunker, which I assumed was a doomsday bunker in the ground that he climbed out of. It doesn't matter.
Wrong, but yes.
I am wrong, but that's fine. He got out of that, started walking away, and the way it sounded was he hit a chain and it wrapped around his leg and pulled him up like a snare trap kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because it said like it pulled his leg out from under him. So I assumed it pulled him up and trapped him, which means the meth heads caught him. And then, since considering the next scene is him, quote unquote, waking up tied to a log, I assume they caught him, tied him to a log, and threw him down the river. And then right after the whole river scene, he quote unquote wakes up in a bunker, tied a little bit and wet, which hammers home the fact that he was actually in the water on some logs. It's like they put him through there just to like scare him and then knocked him out again and threw him in a bunker again somewhere else. Because he wakes up seeming like he doesn't know where he is anymore.
Yes. It also does say Victor pulled himself upright, his back drenched in stagnant water. So he was in a puddle when he woke up.
Oh. Regardless.
Yeah. I do agree. Like it's very weird that like this chain is like, I don't know what's the purpose of this chain, and like so wait, was it a trap? Did he just clumsily like fall into some chains and like trip and get hit? Like I really, again, like it's very muddled and confusing like between scenes in the story.
Because it straight up says it was a dream, I'm assuming he was walking away, he tripped on the chains, he somehow turned his body and fell onto his back in a puddle, knocked himself out from his head hitting the ground. Because he's laying in a puddle with chains around his ankles, he dreamt that he is laying on wood going down the water and about to kill him.
Oh yeah, and I get that part. My problem is like the chain, like because it felt like it was supposed to be more than just like an accident, but it seems like they're just leaving it as an accident.
Yeah, because I too thought it was more of a trap and not an accident at the start, but who fucking knows anymore?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're hitting that point in our review or in our discussion where it's like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah. When he gets up, I said before, it seems like he doesn't really know where he is anymore. Almost like the vagrants took him to a different bunker, which is what I assumed, considering I thought he was caught and not just tripped. But, so I don't understand why he's lost if he's literally right where he was when he woke up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not described very well. I'll give you that.
Mm-hmm. And then my last one is basically just the endings out of Left Town. I think I get it now that I had to think about it more by the end, like rereading it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much all the stuff you said before, Cultist, like Victor was talking about how Mary tore his heart out. I think she literally did. That's why when the vagrant shot him, he was bleeding from his chest. He said you missed because his physical heart is elsewhere, locked in a box or something, for all we know. Blood doesn't necessarily have to be actually black, but it could be black, but it's not described well enough to know.
Yeah.
Also, like, if he has all this like power and stuff, why has he been so weak and vulnerable until now?
I maybe because he's a servitor to he's just a servitor to a more powerful entity. Because again, it's kind of weird. It's like now they were in his domain, and then we get the paragraph of Mary like appearing like out of the bubble and stuff like that, and like and the hunters could only stare, and then it's like a correction. This was her domain, but unlike these men, he was allowed here. So apparently, Mary and him are not on not on the mend or not broken up. Because like I don't know, like it seems really weird. Like you said, it comes out of Left Town. Given like all the like maybe if it didn't try and hammer home throughout the story that like they've broken up, or what have you. Because it seems like with the band, like the little, like the pale band on his finger, and like his what's the word? His
refusal to pick up the phone.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah. His refusal to pick up the phone after she's trying to call him. It just seems like,
you know what it seems like? It seems like the entire story, like, Ramir shouldn't have died where he died. He should have died at the end. Like, this entire thing was basically Victor tricking Ramir by saying, like, oh, no, we've broken up, I don't want to talk to her anymore. And then all of a sudden it's revealed that they're actually still a couple and they enjoy murder now, and then they kill him. Like,
yeah, like
the ending is set up like it's a twist.
Yeah.
The ending is set up like it's a twist, even though it's not a twist.
It's a twist that has no real, there's not a lot of like hints to denote the twist. Like, it's sort of an M. Night Shyamalan twist. No. Kind of.
Yeah.
Like it's a very, like, at first I liked it, and I like the comeuppance of the rednecks, like they're assholes, so they deserve to get what's coming to them. But it's like the rest of the story just doesn't like mesh properly to try and get there.
Yeah, that's like you saying you like Jeff the Killer because the bullies get their comeuppance.
And I mean, yeah, sure. Like, I like that. I do like that part of Jeff the Killer. I just don't like Jeff the Killer all that much.
Yeah.
Well, okay, correction. I don't like the stories that have been told of Jeff the Killer, the ones that are like really bad. Like, we like Jeff the Killer does have some good stories.
Yes, and I apologize for saying his name. Please continue.
Yes. Exactly. Oh, you'll get yours in January, sir. But no, like,
in my notice.
You son of a bitch.
I need some. I need January off, please.
No. Anyway, yeah, like, I'm just agreeing with you really at this point. It's just like, yeah, it sort of just comes out of Left Town, and yeah, like, I do agree. Like, it almost seems like this should have been like a buddy horror, in that, like, they lure Ramir out into the woods and to get eaten, and then maybe even have like that the meth head hunters show up and complicate matters, so they have to go deeper into the woods, and it takes a little bit longer to get back to where they were planning on eating Ramir. And then, but that needs to be brought up. Like he's like, Ramir, you think you're saved? Well, this is actually all for you, Ramir, all for you, or should I say, correction, all for her. And then it cuts to black as she starts eating.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. It could have also had like there's always bigger fish in the sea, like, kind of thing. Like that ending, like the whole like metaphor of like there's always bigger fish in the pond and stuff like that. Like, because that's literally a common turn of phrase for dating, is like there's always bigger fish in the sea. Like that could have been like, because Ramir brings up the whole dating situation, like, scene thing from earlier, so that could have been a nice kind of come around to this point, but we didn't get that.
The dating phrase is "there's plenty of fish in the sea."
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it was. Yes.
But she could have turned it around saying, "There's always a bigger fish, though."
Yeah, there's plenty of fish in the sea, but there's also bigger fish in the sea.
Well, no, the other phrase is "there's always a bigger fish," which means like, doesn't matter how badass the fish is, there's always a bigger one that'll eat it.
Yeah, exactly. I love how, so, like, I think we've had this is the first, I think, for our show where you guys have given have it's sort of a revelation, but it's more of a revelation of the story's bad, and I shouldn't like it. Because that's literally how I've
like whatever you like.
No, like this, like, literally through our conversation, this has literally been like my turnaround for this story. Like, I was originally going to go in and say, like, for my final thoughts, I was going to recommend this story because I liked how the ending turned around. But the more I read it and the more we thought about it, it's like, no, I really can't in good conscience say I fully recommend it. So,
fair enough. Either way, that was the end of my notes.
All right. And much like this story, having very little in transition, we will move on to final thoughts.
Well, if that was the case, you wouldn't mention. You would just do it.
Yeah, I would just say, yeah. All right, so we're better than the story.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I was originally going to like recommend it because, again, I like what the core of the story is trying to do. I really do. Like, I like things in the story, like, again, like the antagonists in the story are hateable, absolutely hateable pieces of shit, and the ending gives me this kind of like not conclusive, this like it gives me a satisfying end to them with like them falling into a trap of sorts. The problem is, though, as we've been talking, is that trap comes from nowhere. Like it just pops up. Like there's no real build up.
Traps do though.
I know
Traps are meant to be a surprise.
Yes, but and like that is sometimes how like mysteries like work in stories and how like traps and stuff. But it's also not a good way of like telling a story. when you suddenly your readers is left as in the dark as everybody else in the story, and there doesn't seem to be any hints or clues that the person could like trail back to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it just I like the dingy overall horror of the story, like the mundane horror of the story. Like, again, like the antagonists are good antagonists; they're good like monsters, as people. Ramir, like he didn't deserve to die as early as he did,
and as stealthily as he did.
Yeah, as quickly, just as nonchalantly as he did.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like the setting. I like the dingy horror of Americana. I like how the ending, like I like what happens in the ending. I just wish there was more more built up to the like leading up to the ending. So I will partially recommend it, but that is the best I'm going to be able to give this story. It needs a lot more work on the story, like to kind of refine it and make it less like disjointed, which is what it really feels like in several places. So that's my final thoughts. Mikey.
So my final thoughts here are Rasulka used Skull and Skeleton. It's super effective. Mikey is confused. Mikey hits himself. Ow! Rasulka used Igloo in a forest. It's super effective. Mikey is still confused. Mikey hits himself. Ow! Overall, I really did not like the poor transitions and the lack of descriptions that were needed to make this a coherent piece.
Yeah.
So I can't recommend this.
Right.
Fair.
And
nice
gamer.
Pokemon references, Mr.
Yeah.
Guy that doesn't have gamer in the name. Damn
Yeah.
it.
I was going to intercede like after it's like cultist and gamer use hypo spray of igloo as a military term. It's somewhat effective.
No, cultist and gamer use educate.
Yeah, use educate. Yeah.
But yeah. For me, I can't really recommend it, honestly. The whole story was confusing. Between the oddly broken up paragraphs, the lack of description when it matters, the focus on things that don't matter. I was stumbling over almost every paragraph while I was reading it. The whole creepy aspect of the story happens at the very end. Like, the whole story was leading up to it, but all the name dropping and world building it took to get there, like, did any of it really matter? Like, Mary is the Rasulka here, yeah. She's defending her friend /ex/husband, I don't fucking know, from these guys, sure. But the events of the story don't influence it at all.
Yeah.
Like, Ramir's death didn't cause this ending. Neither did them checking out the asylum. Victor could have just been taking a walk through the Stillwood and a couple of muggers jump him and the same thing would have happened.
Honestly, you're right. Yeah, like Ramir. Honestly, he was like, "Hey, you want? I need to." I think at the beginning it's like he needs to like take his mind off something. So they could have just gone for a walk, and they just happened to walk down a trail into the Stillwood, and then, bam, Mary shows up, or when they get mugged, or like. I think the core problem with the story is that Mary is not really like there's nothing about Mary until the last fucking paragraph.
Yeah.
Like there's literally like she is just like the like she's mentioned throughout the story, but like in such a mundane way that has no like clue or lead up. Like the dream kind of shows it a little bit, but like it's just a fucking dream.
Exactly.
So like there's it really feels like it because this ending like monster revelation of Mary just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, if there's a reason for it and like it actually twisted the story a bit, cool, but it's just like, I'm here as backup. Cool. Like the story isn't about her, it's about Victor.
Like I kind of feel like, so the pager part, like when his pager goes off while he's running in the woods and he throws it, it references that it's the hospital. It's not Mary. It's Sweetbrook Hospital is notifying them through the pager. But it's like I really feel like it should, like his phone should have gone off. It's like Mary was trying to contact him again. Like maybe that would have given a little bit more. I don't know. Like, man, like it really is. I wanted to like the story, but the more we talk about it, the more it's like I can't really like the story.
And again, I'm not trying to make you hate something that you enjoy.
No, I get.
This is my thoughts.
Yeah, and again, your thoughts here are valid. And like again, they've changed my mind on the story. Like I'm not just going to blanketly recommend the story. Like I'm going to partially recommend it because of the core stuff here. It's just it's not a finished product in terms of a story. Like there needs to be some more editing to work done to the story to make it more coherent and to make it flow better, so that we actually maybe not see Mary like as a monster right off the go, but like at least give us some more hints, like kind of like, or give us some things that we can like think back on. I was like, oh, that's what that meant. Okay.
Like they're again, there. If it was a twist to kill his friend, there's a reason for it, but there's no reason for anything.
Yeah, like, and again, like up until the very last paragraph of the story, this almost felt like this was going to be the most mundane horror of all of Ichor Falls. Like, yeah, white trash redneck meth heads are monsters.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, who knew?
Pretty much.
But yeah.
And yeah, like the story name drops the Stillwood King. Like you'd think it'd be like, oh well, gamers gotta like it. They name drop them, but it's done in such a way. It's done in the way that you would name drop the Doomslayer before saying that you're about to kick some ass. You know, like the Stillwood King isn't supposed to be this, is supposed to be this unkillable monster that you fear, not like an idol that you want to be like when you fucking grow up.
You know what this
That's
is?
how it's said.
This is the kids who thought Slender Man was so awesome and lived in the woods, and they wanted to be his proxies. Like that's kind of what it felt like a little bit,
yeah.
Like, and again, like I kind of liked it the way it was presented. The way I interpreted it is like, oh, this is cool. Like he's referencing like that the people of Ichor Falls have this legend in the Stillwood of the Stillwood King, like a boogeyman. So now he's being chased and hunted by these assholes in the Stillwood. He's hoping, like he's kind of like on like a faint prayer. He's hoping that the Stillwood would show up and kill them.
No, he's saying that like he's trying to.
He wants to be like the
Stillwood King. He's not saying the Stillwood King's going to save me or nothing. As far as I
no, but yeah, I kind of I guess I interpret it a little bit differently, or maybe I went a little too far over the interpretation. But
maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
things have been going over my head all recording. It seems.
Yeah,
it's entirely possible that I missed it.
Mm-hmm. But
where is it, real quick? I just want to check it.
Yeah, like he does say, like he envisioned himself being the Stillwood King, stalking these people like every.
Victor pretended he was the Stillwood King.
It's
pretended like he's a child.
So he's just like again. It's exactly like those idiot kids who thought like Slender Man would take them into his house if they killed their friends. Like it's like kind of a stupid childish thing like that.
Yeah, and if the story was about this guy who heard about the Stillwood King legend, and he went in there to try to like see if he could become a proxy of him, and then what happened was Mary found him and like siren songed him, and now he's married / ex-married, divorced from her now. Like, okay, if that's the story, but we're not told that story.
Yeah.
So I don't know where. Again, something else coming from Left Town.
Yeah, it's again. There's another reference like. This is kind of seems like I took it initially as a positive, but I can see why why it's negative or why there's so much. We're getting just hammered in with all these references to Ichor Falls, like to other Ichor Falls things, that it almost kind of muddies the story itself, because like we're introducing a new creature into Ichor Falls lore. But they gave us a red herring in that they mentioned the Stillwood King, and we're in the Stillwood. So, and it's Ichor Falls, so the Stillwood King is the main honcho, the head honcho of the Stillwood. But then Mary shows up out of the river, like in her Rasulka form. So,
also, like, they're in the damn Stillwood right now.
Yeah,
and they're talking like they're from here. It's like, if you're in the Stillwood, I don't think you're allowed passage in and out.
Yeah, I don't think you mean like the meth heads, right?
All of them.
Well, no. Again, like with the way at the very end, like it's like a correction. This was her domain, but unlike these men, he was allowed here. That I think is mentioned like more like, for some reason Victor knows that the creeks of the Stillwood are Mary's domain, so he's allowed there because he's with her. But again, the whole up until this point, they were broken up, or it was alluding to that. So it's just like, gotcha, both the audience and the story. It's like, we're not broken up. We're still best buds. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's like, okay. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. I want to like it, but
yeah,
there's so many ways it could have went. Like, we talked about multiple ways you could go for it to be better. It's just, I don't know, just the execution of it. I don't personally like it myself.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because it has some cool flowery descriptions of things that I really enjoyed. And like you said, the creatures are good. It's just the execution I can't recommend personally.
And the reason, and like all those things that we liked about the story, is why I would partially recommend it. It's just because like everything else is kind of hurting the story, but there's still little bits of the story that I'd like some people to see. So yeah.
Yeah, but like the basis of the story is it's like a love story where like they're chased down by Hicks and one of them gets killed and the other one gets killed by the monster. Like, it's such a bare bones thing, you know, where it's like you could find 5 other stories that do the exact same thing.
Yeah, but I read this story, so
you did.
Yeah. Anyway, you're not gonna change my mind on this part, but
I'm not trying.
Okay, so yeah, so 1 partial recommendation and 2 not recommendations, because the story needs a lot of work to kind of bring up properly like bring up the things that were good about it. So, but that has been this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you disagree with us, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, Ichor Falls stories, spooky cryptids, and what have you. Send us your emails, and we'll add them to the roster to look over and discuss for the show. You can also send us messages on Twitter. Mikey is at the E Stands for Evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very long.
It is.
And I'm at Review Cultist. If you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. If we weren't listening to our show, it would be like speaking into the void. And even if you yes, we just shat on the story for 2 hours. But if you weren't writing these stories and sharing them online and letting people read them and see them, well, first, like, that's the only real way to get better is to have people like look over your stuff.
Yeah.
But also, like, again, regardless of whether or not I like or hate a story, I still read it and I still enjoyed it in some capacity. Even if I didn't like the entirety of the story.
Yeah, I agree. Like, doesn't matter how good or bad a story. Like, even like Spyro.exe, we shit on that one the most, I think. There were still elements of it that are endearing. Like, even the fact that it's bad is endearing to us, you know?
Yeah, it's certainly memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And constructive criticism is what we're always trying to bring to the table. We're not trying to just flatly just shit on it for the sake of shitting on it.
no, because that's
We're trying to shit on it in specific categories and keep all the shit sectioned out so you can clearly see how much shit is in each section.
Exactly.
Trying to make it work. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, no. But no, again, like honestly, thank you for writing these stories and posting online and dealing with a couple of chuckle fucks who read it and discuss it for hours on end. Thank you from my heart.
Only his though.
Yes.
Oh,
I've ripped theirs out.
yeah, of course.
Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.